PIXLR is a photo editing website that we're going to use on your Chromebooks for editing projects. PIXLR does have a phone app, but PIXLR E, the advanced editor, is something that's more like free Photoshop. So PIXLR X is when you just need quick and simple things like cropping, rotating, maybe putting some filters on. And then PIXLR E is when we are going to do things that are more similar to Photoshop. So today I'm just going to show you PIXLR X. So when you get to PIXLR X, you have to start by opening up your image. And when you open up your image, you'll have access to Google Drive because your computer is set up a little bit differently. But you'll also have access to your downloads. If you downloaded a picture from your phone or anything, you could find it here. So I'm going to take this food picture that I took over the weekend. I'm going to click apply, and it might take a second or two for it to load. So the first thing that you can play around with, on the left, there's arrange and style. This is going to be something that you will use more with the Photoshop app, the editor. Animation is something that you could potentially play around with, but it's not anything that's going to save to a still photo. So I would mostly play around with things like adding text if you were wanting to add text to something, adding elements, cropping and rotating, cutout, adjust and filter, effect, liquify, retouch, and draw. But this is something that you're really just going to play around with today. So crop and rotate is very simple. If you were trying to rotate an image, you can flip it horizontally or flip it vertically. Anything that you do change, you just need to make sure that you click apply when you're done. So let's say I wanted to crop some of this photo out. I would crop and then click apply. I don't want to do that. I think it looks better without. So the nice thing is that you have edit, undo over here. Let's see, cutout is something, again, that you probably won't use too much yet, but you're welcome to play around with it. The big one's probably going to be adjust and filter. This one is something that you can do an auto color fix. You can change it to black and white. You can do something called color pop. Again, you can undo any of those things so it goes back to your original. Color is a big one. You can play around with your vibrancy. You can play around with saturation, temperature, tint. If you keep scrolling down, hue, saturation. Again, undo to get you back where you wanted to be. Light is another one. This is things like brightness, exposure, contrast, blacks, whites, things like that. Adding highlights and shadows. You can also play around with details, scene. These are things that I just really want you to play with. A lot of this stuff I'm going to teach you more of when you are learning individual tools, but today is just a lot of playing. Effects. This is going to be something like a filter, and if you click on the different filter headlines, you'll see other options underneath of it. Liquify is something you can play with. I'll teach you more of that later. Same with retouch and draw. So I would say today, basically play around with crop and rotate or adjust and filter and effects. When you are done, so let's say I did some editing here and let's say I liked this, I would want to click save. And then I always bump the quality all the way up to 100%. A JPEG is what you want to export as. PNGs are okay, but PNGs cannot be shared to Instagram easily. So JPEG is what I'm going to choose. I'm going to click Save As, and it's going to ask me, where do I want to save this to? You probably have the option to save it in your drive or just to save it in downloads. And I always like to rename mine. So this was a tart. That's what I baked this weekend. And so I'm just going to say edit 1. That way I know that this is the first edit that I did. This is going to automatically download into your downloads. So when you click on your downloads on your computer, you'll see your original and the edit. So that's how you use the simple version of PIXLR X.